Hi, welcome back. This is first track, part 6. In this video, we are going to look at the rest of Revelation chapter 17. In the previous video, we were only looking at certain verses of the chapter, and they describe the corporate empire beast, the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. In this video, we are going to look at the woman. There is a woman that rides on this corporate empire beast. And so the question we want to ask is, who is that woman that is riding or sitting on that corporate empire beast? Now let me put on the screen this picture. Previously, we saw this beast, this colored beast of 7 heads and 10 horns without the woman. But in this chapter 17, we were told that there is a woman that rides on this beast. So who is this woman? Now at the outset, I would like to state the answer to this question. Then we can go through the process of verifying the answer. This will make our learning process easier. So this is the question that we like to answer first. That is, who is the woman? The first point here is, the woman is a great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. Revelation 17, verse 18. Now let me read. And the woman whom you saw is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. So the woman is a great city. And the reason she is great is because she reigns over the kings of the earth. Next point is, it is a city that is built on 7 mountains or 7 hills. This is based on Revelation 17, verse 9. Let me read verse 9. Here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. So the woman sits on 7 mountains or 7 hills, meaning that the city is built on 7 hills. Okay. The third point is, as the woman or city is carried by the beast, which is the empire, it must be the capital city of the empire. So since this city is carried by the empire, that means that city must be the capital city of the empire. It cannot be just an ordinary city, an insignificant city. No, it has got to be a prominent city of the empire. Okay? The fourth point is, since this judgment happens in the end times, right? Revelation 17 is referring to the end times. Then it must refer to the revived Roman Empire and the coming Antichrist Empire. This judgment of God is happening in the end times. And the empire that is existing in the end times is currently the revived Roman Empire. And we know soon it will be taken over by the Antichrist Empire. So therefore, the answer to this question, who is the woman? The answer is as Brussels is the capital of both these empires, the woman must be the city of Brussels, Belgium. Brussels is the capital of the nation of Belgium. And Brussels is the capital, currently the capital of the revived Roman Empire. And we believe that it will also be the capital when the Antichrist sets up his empire, the Antichrist empire. Okay. So we want to ask the question again, why Brussels? Why Brussels is identified as the woman, or the woman is identified as Brussels? Now, on this slide, we ask this question, why Brussels? And we want to like verify what has been said. That is, Brussels is built on 7 hills. See? And these are the names of the 7 hills in Dutch. Dutch is the official language there. So these 7 hills, and beside the Dutch name is the names in English. So these 7 hills are what the city of Brussels is built upon. Now, from what I understand, these 7 hills are all low hills, right? They are not high, they're just low hills. And it is actually true for most of all these cities that is believed to be built on 7 hills. The hills are all low. For example, Rome. You know, the city of Rome is also built on 7 hills. And a number of years ago, me and my wife, we visited Rome, and we went to visit these 7 hills in Rome. And they are also all very low hills. They are not like, you know, Penang Hill, that is about 2,000 feet high, you know. No. They are more like Bukit Damba, if you know what I mean. So all these hills are low. It makes sense because a city cannot be built on 7 hills if they are all very high, right? It's different if it's just one hill, even if it's very high. If it's just one hill, a city built on one hill, okay. But for a city to be built on 7 hills and all the hills are very high, it doesn't make sense. It's not possible, right? Okay. So this 7 hills in Brussels, they are also streets names. Okay. Now, secondly, we want to verify here is that Brussels is the de facto capital of the European Union. I say here de facto capital because there is no official capital for the European Union. But Brussels is the de facto capital because in practice, de facto means in practice. So Brussels is currently houses the European Commission, the European Parliament, and the Council of the European Union. Now, if you have these 3 entities located in Brussels, what more you want, right? Brussels is definitely the capital of the European Union. And on top of that, Brussels is also the HQ, the headquarters of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And this organization is Transatlantic Military Alliance that has 30 members, including US, Canada, Ireland, Turkey, and many other countries who are not members of the European Union, but they are members of NATO. So you can imagine the importance of Brazil. The city of Brussels, where so many important entities are located there. So these factors make Brussels a great city. When the Antichrist appears, he will very likely base his headquarters there, right? Keep in mind the city of Brussels, and let's look at the characteristic of the woman. Now, the first characteristics of the woman is from verse 1, Revelation 17, verse 1. Let me read. Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and talked with me, saying to me, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters." So this woman is actually a great harlot, a prostitute, okay, who sits on many waters. What does many waters means? The answer is given to us in verse 15. Verse 15 says, "Then he said to me, the waters which you saw where the harlot sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues." So it seems that this woman, that is Brussels, sits on many waters, which represents people, multitude, nations, and tongues. It means that Brussels seems to have a great influence over many nations, peoples, and tongues. So does Brussels fit this description? Definitely, right? Definitely. The second characteristics is taken from chapter 17, verse 2. Okay, and let me read verse 2. "With whom the kings of the earth committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth were drunk with the wine of a fornication." Now, what does it mean for a city to commit fornication with the kings of the earth? To understand this, let's apply first to an individual, a person. Now, if a man commits fornication with a woman, it means that the woman is not his wife, and vice versa. It means the man is not the woman's husband. It's not legal, right? What they are doing is not legal. And what happened is, when they do that, when these two persons commits fornication, it means that they lose their purity, they lose their sovereignty, right? And of course, they lose their dignity. See, when they commit fornication. So when you apply this now to the situation here between Brussels and the kings of the earth, by the way, the kings here doesn't mean just royalty kings. It means the leader of the nation, like prime minister or president of a country. So when Brussels commits fornication with the kings of the earth, it means that these nations, they will lose their dignity, they will lose their purity, and also they will lose their sovereignty, because the decisions will be taken that will not be favorable to them. But you may say, but these alliances, like is happening with Brussels, with European Union coming together and joining together in the union, and then it's all based in headquarters in Brussels. It's a good thing, right? Well, it's good, because that's why it says here, the scripture says, "And the inhabitants of the earth were drunk with the wine of her fornication." Yes, the inhabitants of this nation that comes together in this manner, they will enjoy success, because they're drinking the wine, right? They are drinking the wine of a fornication. So wine means enjoy, right? Success. Just like when a man commits fornication with a woman that is not his wife, yes, it may be enjoyable, but enjoyable doesn't mean it's right. See? So in this situation here, nations lost their national sovereignty in their relationship with Brussels. Example, Brexit. Now, why did Britain pull out of the European Union? The reason is because the people of Britain, the British people, they feel that they have lost their sovereignty. As a member of the European Union, they have to follow the policies set by Brussels. So they feel that they have lost their sovereignty. They have lost their fishing rights to France and so on, and they also have to pay higher taxes. And from what I know is that they also have to pay, contribute much more than other countries to the European Union fund. So all this makes the British people sense that they are not in control of their nation. They lost their sovereignty, so to speak. The next characteristic is taken from verse 3, chapter 17, verse 3. Let me read the verse. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So John was taken to the wilderness, and there he saw this woman, which is Brussels, sitting on the beast, which is the empire. So the question we want to ask is, who helps who? The beast helps the woman, or the woman helps the beast? Now, like a cowboy, a cowboy sitting on a horse, who helps who? Definitely it's the horse that helps the cowboy, right? The horse will go wherever the cowboy wants to go. So in this situation here, the answer is the beast, the empire, helps the woman, Brussels. Okay. Now, since the beast is the corporate empire, the beast gives influence, power, and authority to the woman. In other words, the empire promotes the city of Brussels, right? Without the empire, the revived Roman Empire, what is Brussels? Brussels would just be any other city, and it will not be that influential in the world today. Let's look at the next characteristic of the woman. Now, in this next characteristics, this is taken from verse 4 and 5 of Revelation 17. Let me read verse 4. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. Verse 5. And on her forehead a name was written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. Now the city of Brussels has been labeled Babylon the Great. You see? Mystery. Now, mystery simply means something hidden that eventually will be revealed. Mystery doesn't mean mysterious, or it doesn't mean spooky, Like sometimes we watch these movies or comics. So mystery doesn't mean spooky, it just simply means hidden. But eventually it will be revealed. So this city of Brussels is being labeled by God as Mystery Babylon the Great. So why did God label Brussels after the ancient city of Babylon? Now let's look at this side here. Babylon actually represents 3 things. First is Babylon was an ancient city. Okay, now look at this map here. Now Babylon actually is an ancient city located in present-day Iraq, right? It's located on the eastern side of the river Euphrates, okay? And this city, of course, is not inhabited anymore. It's just an archaeological site now. Nobody lives on it now. But beside this archaeological site of ancient Babylon, there is a real city now. It's a city called Hila. So Babylon is about 100 kilometers located, 100 kilometers south of Baghdad. So this city is a very old ancient city, but today is no more, it's abandoned. Now the second thing that Babylon represents is that Babylon was an empire. Now we know that Babylon, we heard about Babylon when we read the book of Daniel, King Nebuchadnezzar. So King Nebuchadnezzar was the first king of the Babylonian Empire. But then that period of the Babylonian Empire was a second Babylonian Empire. The first Babylonian Empire existed long time before that. Actually, it's during the time of Abraham, long time ago. What happened was that first Babylonian Empire, that first period of the Babylonian Empire loses its power, right? Loses its influence. Then it came back again with King Nebuchadnezzar as the first king of this second period of the Babylonian Empire. So even that the second empire is also past, right? So the third thing that Babylon represents is that Babylon is a spirit. So even though the city, the ancient city of Babylon is already long gone, and the empire also has died off, but the spirit lives on. The spirit of Babylon lives on, even today. So the question we ask is, why did God label Brussels as Babylon the Great? The answer is, the spirit that inhabited the great ancient city of Babylon had moved to Brussels and is now residing in that city. So that's why the name Babylon is still being used. Okay. The next characteristic is taken from verse 6. In Revelation 17, verse 6, let me read. John said, I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I marveled with great amazement. So it seems that Brussels was drunk with the blood of the saints and with the martyrs of Jesus, which means that Brussels will launch a severe persecution against the saints. The question is, has Brussels done this? No, not yet, at least not yet. You know, Brussels is currently the capital of the revived Roman Empire. She became the capital since the founding of the revived Roman Empire in 1948. And there is no evidence that Brussels has persecuted the saints of Jesus Christ. However, when the Antichrist appears, and establish the capital of his empire in Brussels, this will be fulfilled. Now, immediately after the rapture, the Antichrist will appear on the world stage. And then he will establish his empire, the Antichrist empire. And he will be demanding everyone, the inhabitants of the earth, to worship his image and to worship him. But the saints of Jesus Christ will not do that. True saints of Jesus Christ will not be worshiping him, bowing down to his image. For that reason, he will launch a severe persecution against the saints of Jesus Christ. And not only that, God will allow the Antichrist to overcome the saints in those days. We were told this in Revelation 13, verse 7, and Revelation 20, verse 4. You can go back and read these two verses at your convenient time. What was told to us in this scripture is that the Antichrist will behead Christians. They will behead the saints of Jesus Christ. The method of persecution of beheading the saints is so severe during those days. So many believers will suffer martyrdom. Martyrdom by being beheaded. So that's why the scripture here says, she was drunk with the blood of the saints. You see, when your head is chopped off, when a person's head is chopped off, that's where the blood flows very freely, right? The next characteristic of the woman is regarding the woman is built on 7 mountains, which we have which we have already looked at. So let me just put on the screen here. It says here, the woman is that great city that sits on 7 mountains. So this is mentioned in verse 9 and also verse 18. Okay, so the woman is that great city. Now, in the world, there are actually over 100 cities that claim to be built on 7 mountains. Below are some of the prominent ones. Okay, so these are the prominent ones. But the cities number 1 to number 6 do not qualify to be the woman. Why? Because the woman sits on the corporate empire beast. It's an empire beast. That means, as I said earlier, the woman, which is a city, must be the capital city of the empire, of one of the empires. There are 7 empires. So the city must be the capital of one of the empires. So number 1 to number 6, these cities do not qualify. But the other 3, they qualify. But let's look at number 7, Athens. Athens was the capital of the Greek Empire. However, the church did not exist at that time yet. Because in Revelation 17, we were told that the city, the woman, the city, persecute the saints of Jesus Christ, right? But during the Greek Empire, the church did not exist. So therefore, Athens do not qualify. The city of Athens do not qualify. Then the next one is Rome, which is the capital of the old Roman Empire. Now, Rome was the capital of the old Roman Empire, but it's not the capital of the revived Roman Empire. So then Rome also do not qualify. It is Brussels that is the city that the woman refers to. because Brussels is the capital of the revived Roman Empire and also will be the capital of the Antichrist Empire when the Antichrist appears. Now, at this point, I would like to speak to you, the listeners, especially those who have read my book, End Time Scenario. I wrote that book a number of years ago, and in that book, I said that Rome is the woman, not Brussels. Now, when I wrote the book, I already am aware that Brussels is the capital of the revived Roman Empire. That is very clear to many people, right? But in fact, I also state that when the Antichrist appears, the Antichrist will also make Brussels as his capital of his empire, the Antichrist Empire. However, somehow it did not register with me. And I stumbled over this. I do not know why. So for those of you who have my book and you would like to check out, you can refer to page 230, in which I mentioned that Rome is the woman. However, on page 235, I clearly state that I believe Brussels is the capital of the Antichrist Empire. So I believe that Brussels will be the capital of both the revived Roman Empire and the Antichrist Empire. But why did I mention Rome? In looking back, I also do not know why. So sometimes these things happen, right? So for those of you who have read my book, you can please go back and check it out. And this description is the correct description, interpretation of who the woman is. Now let's look at the last characteristics of the woman. Now this last characteristics is taken from Revelation 17 verses 16 and 17. So let me read verse 16. And the 10 horns which you saw on the beast, this will hit the harlot, make her desolate and naked, eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Verse 17. For God has put it into their hearts to fulfill his purpose, to be of one mind, and to give the kingdom to the beast until the words of God are fulfilled. Now this verse we have already looked at in the previous video, that the 10 horns that represents the 10 kingdoms. And these 10 kingdoms are the regions of the world. The world is divided into 10 regions, right? So when the Antichrist appears, these 10 regions of the world will receive their kingdomship from the Antichrist. And they will in turn give their support to the Antichrist. That's how the Antichrist can rule the world, right? And this matter of one mind, they all have one mind. There's 10 regions of the world. They all have one mind because God made them have one mind to support the Antichrist. But the thing is, after it is done, and the reign of this Antichrist is going to be short, right? We all know. So after this short few years, God will cause the hearts of these 10 kingdoms to be changed, and they will begin to hate the beast. The woman. They are beginning to hate the woman, and the woman is Brussels. So the scripture tells us is that then they will burn the woman. That means they will burn Brussels. You see, let me just read this scripture, these verses again. The 10 horns, Antichrist kingdom, will hate the harlot, Brussels, make her desolate and naked, eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God has put it in their hearts to fulfill his purpose. See, God has put it in the hearts of these 10 regions of the world to fulfill his purpose. What is his purpose? Firstly is they will be of one mind and to give their kingdom to the beast. But then, after God has fulfilled this first purpose, then it says, until the words of God are fulfilled. So once this is fulfilled, then God said, time is up. And then the hearts of these 10 regions of the world, they are going to hate the Antichrist, the woman, rather. That means they are going to hate Brussels, and they are going to burn Brussels. They are going to destroy Brussels. So that's why at the end, Brussels will be destroyed. The city of Brussels will be completely destroyed. So in closing, I would like to point out something here regarding the 7 heads. Okay. Now, there are these 2 verses here, verses 9 and verse 10. These 2 verses, or put it another way, these 7 heads, right, actually has double meaning. Okay. In verse 9 of Revelation 17, verse 9, the 7 heads are 7 mountains, literal mountains or hills on which the city is built upon. This we already read it just now, so we are not going to read it again. But then, the 7 heads are also 7 kings or kingdoms. And this is stated in verse 10. So again, this verse 10 of Revelation 17, we have already talked about it in quite detail in the previous video. So again, I'm not going to read it again. But here is for me to point out for you is that there is a double meaning for this phrase 7 heads. There is a double meaning. The 7 heads, let me read here. The 7 heads represents not only the 7 literal mountains or hills on which the city of Brussels is built upon, but it's also the spirit of the 7 empires and that have made its home there in Brussels. So the 7 heads represents literal 7 mountains, but it is also the spirit of the 7 empires that has made their home in Brussels. So that's why this is a double meaning for these 2 verses, verses 9 and verse 10. Okay. Now, in conclusion here, I would like to just put the screen here to let you know that this study on the visions of Daniel and Revelation, first track, it involves 6 videos, right? 6 videos. And the first 1, 2, and 3 videos, we cover Daniel chapter 2 and 7. Then in the 4th video, part 4, we covered corporate empire beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. And then in part 5, we covered the corporate empire beast, the Antichrist, and the beast with two horns, the false prophet. And lastly, in this part 6, this current video, we covered the woman rides on the corporate empire beast. Who is she? So this is just a layout, just a summary of the various videos to help you to refer to it if you so wish. So thank you for watching and hope you be able to understand the book of Revelation and this Daniel and Revelation better.